I have a lot to say about this lovely lady that's coming up next. She is our keynote speaker on resilience, how to build yours and build a better business. I'd like to welcome Patrice Mousseau. Born and raised in Sioux Lookout, Ontario, Patrice is a single mom, a former news anchor at APTN, and a proud member of the Fort William First Nation. Patrice has actively collaborated with Indigenous communities across Canada and makes it her top priority to interact with authenticity and impact in projects that benefit Indigenous people, especially women. She's the founder and CEO of Satya Organics. Inspired by Indigenous values, Satya Organics delivers products made with only certified organic ingredients and packaging materials that meet the highest standard of eco-sustainability for people and our planet. Patrice has successfully grown her business by more than 450% in 5 years, with annual average sales increasing by 70%. Patrice is a very, very dear friend of mine, long-term friend of mine, and I'm very proud to have the opportunity to introduce her. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Patrice.
Thank you, Michelle. I know you could have told so many more stories, so thank you for keeping it rated G. That was great. And thank you for such a lovely, it was a lovely intro. Yes, my name is Patrice Mousseau. One thing though, it's Satya, S-A-T-Y-A, Satya Organics. As Michelle mentioned, born and raised in Sioux Lookout, Ontario, out of Fort William First Nation. I'm Ojibwe, of course. And I'm going to be talking about resilience, but I think first, probably the best thing for me to do is just give you a little more background on who I am. I grew up in a really small town, like 3,000 people, kind of small town. Ended up going into radio and television. Did that for many, many years. Yes, I was the anchor for APTN. I also, I worked for CBC, News World. I had radio talk on CFRB. I had a music show on Sirius Satellite Radio, program director at Aboriginal Voices. Like it was what I thought I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. I wanted to be there and make a difference in the world. And unfortunately, I found that journalism wasn't really doing that anymore. So I was kind of getting disillusioned with it anyway. But then I had a baby, and when you have a child, your whole world changes. And so when she was about 8 months old, she developed eczema or eczema, depending on how you want to say it. And in my experience, actually at CFRB, I had interviewed a woman who had written a book on what's called the Dirty Dozen, which is, talking about all the different chemicals that are in our products. And I knew that there were dangers around using steroid creams, especially around little ones. So I thought, because that was the prescription the doctor gave me. He was like, you have to put cortisone creams on her. She was scratching so bad that she was, she had rashes and she was bleeding all over her crib sheets. And it was just awful. As a mom, I just wanted to be able to help my baby. So, but steroids weren't the answer. So I took my research skills, which I had previous, and started looking at, the existing medical research. I started looking at academic studies. I started looking, of course, at traditional medicine. And I took all that information and then, bought a crock pot used off of Facebook for $15. And started experimenting in my kitchen. And then after time, I experimented for a while and I came up with something that once I, put it on her, it cleared her eczema up in 2 days. So then I had, a whole crock pot left over and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I don't really need it anymore. So I put it out there into the community on Facebook, on a mom and baby group in my area and said, does anybody else need any of this? And I had to make 3 more crock pots because at that point, I didn't know how pervasive the problem was. We're talking about 20% of the world's population suffers from eczema under the age of 8. So that's a huge chunk of people. And so I was just doing that. I was literally giving it to people from like my kitchen window, just sharing it. And then, because I never thought that I would ever run a business. Businesses were kind of a negative for me. It was all about extraction and like white guys and suits and briefcases, you know, running around stock markets and all that. Like, it was just never me. But it was probably about a year and a half later, that I met a woman who was running another business. And she said, you know, I need you to come to this, it's called the SVI, Social Venture Institute Women's Conference in Vancouver. She goes, I'll get you a scholarship. You're going to come. And so I brought my product, which at the time I was literally gluing on with construction paper and handwriting the label. I brought it to the conference, not really knowing what was going to happen. And it was inspiration. I met all these, you know, these women who were creating businesses that were about being of service, about, you know, trying to make the world a better place, about not doing it in an extractive way, but actually trying to solve problems. So I was really inspired, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to, you know, do a farmer's market, which, by the way, if you have any products that you're thinking about doing, farmers markets, school fairs are an amazing way to get great customer feedback. So I went to my local farmers market, and I started selling my product as what I thought was going to be a baby bum balm, because I thought, you know, that's what everybody has, and that's what I'm going to do. And honestly, nobody cared. I wasn't really selling anything. And then I was like, well, you know, I did actually create this for eczema. So I, you know, started talking about that, and suddenly, you know, everybody wanted the product again. And then, you know, I talked to my local store and the local kids store, and she said to me, you know, will you carry my product? And she said, no, I won't. I have so much skincare. I'm not interested. And so I said to her, I said, well, do you have like any skin problems? And she goes, yeah, I got this, you know, rash around my ring finger and I can't get rid of it. And I'm like, well, here, take one of my little travel sizes. I'll call you back in 3 days and we can talk. And she called me back the next morning and she said, it's gone and I will carry your products, which was great. And then she, you know, she talked to 2 friends and they talked to 2 friends, and we ended up in 70 stores in the Lower Mainland here in Vancouver. And then Whole Foods called and they were like, we want to start carrying your products. And I said, okay, but, you know, I got to like scale up because I'm still making this in my crock pot. So I had to, you know, get a distributor, get a lab, submit it into Health Canada, because you have to, eczema is a health claim, so you have to get that reviewed and approved to actually make sure that it works. You can't just say eczema if it doesn't actually work. And then we said go, and then we went from 70 stores to 400 stores in 2 months. Now we've more than doubled that. So we're actually in around between 800 to 900 stores across Canada, in every corner of Canada, I believe. We're also exporting into Hong Kong and the US, which, by the way, if anybody ever wants to talk to me about exporting, I am super happy to do that. It is an amazing opportunity for anybody to do. So that's sort of where we are now. As Michelle mentioned, you know, we've been growing significantly, and we're on track to double again this year. So that's the outside of who I am. And so the inside is that, you know, I'm a high school dropout. I did go back and get it, but yeah, that was, you know, education was in that way, in a traditional sense, was never a very good thing for me. So I never went to post-secondary. You know, I am a single mom. I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for like 13 years now. You know, I've dealt with eating disorders, have my heart broken so many times in so many different ways I couldn't even tell you. And this whole journey has not been easy. There have been plenty of times when I've been laying on the floor crying and I can't get up because I just felt like it was just too hard. And the reason why, of course, I'm telling you this is because we're talking about resilience. And from adversity, and trauma come resilience. So we all have resilience. Indigenous people, we probably have a little bit of a leg up on the whole trauma adversity thing, but everyone has gone through stuff, and you all have, and you wouldn't be here if you hadn't had developed skills to get you there. So how do we evolve that? How do we become more resilient without necessarily having to go through more trauma and adversity? But congratulations for that, for having made it through, because you are already, doing really well. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about a few different things that I can suggest to help build your resilience. And I think the number one thing is connection, social connection, community, building your community of people who are going through the same sort of things that you are. As an entrepreneur, we are very unique animals. We're very isolated. We can't necessarily talk to our partners about what we're going through. They don't have the experience to be able to give us, more insightful advice. So finding your community is probably the number one thing you can do to guarantee your success moving forward. I had the community without all these people that have been there for me, without building my company, like building a family. I would not be where I am today. This whole idea of, the self-made man, and it's I don't know if I can swear, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's not true. You really need to build that community. So how do you build community? Well, this is good for you and good for them. And it sounds really simple and kind of woo-woo, but honestly, hugs are amazing. When you see somebody and you want to connect, give them hugs. It's wonderful for your oxytocin levels and theirs, and it immediately starts building that connection. Plus, you're actually being of service. You're actually helping people feel better when you give them hugs. And that's another thing that really helps to build community, is about being of service. Think about your business, not about, I'm in a panic about trying to, make money and cash flow and all those sorts of things. Think about, how am I being of service to others in your community? And you're sharing your gifts, right? That's what your businesses are. You have gifts, and you are being able to bring those out and share them. I'm afraid I'm not keeping track of time. I did want to say that I do want to have questions afterwards. So I think I only have half an hour. So I'm going to stop talking in about 8 minutes. Okay. So yes, definitely sharing your gifts. And how do you do that? And this is probably the hardest thing. Okay. Hugs are easy. Being of service can actually get you past that sort of, I don't know if I'm good enough or whatever. You're just being of service. You're sharing. Vulnerability is probably the number one thing that I look for in leadership. Leaders are honest and open with themselves. They're not perfect. Putting forward this idea that you are perfect and that you have all the answers is actually really detrimental to the people that you work with. And also, if you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, you're not allowing yourself that ability to connect with people. If you can give someone your honest self, they'll most likely give it back. And you'll be surprised at how often people will go, yeah, me too. Yeah, that's happened to me. Oh my God, my company almost died last week. These sorts of things are what's going to help you, honestly, to be more successful. So there's community. Also, one of the things I was thinking about too was permanence. It's not reality. There is no, this is the way that life is, right? Bad things are going to happen. Good things are going to happen. That's going to change, guaranteed. So if you can kind of let go of that idea that, you're working to keep things the way that they are, or you're just, constantly thinking about, if I don't succeed, then I'm a failure. Well, success and failure aren't who you are. right? These sorts of things are, they're not true. There is no permanence in life. Change is a guarantee. Failure is a guarantee. Success is a guarantee. If you keep going on long enough, you just have to keep getting back up. And you do that with those skills of resilience to be able to keep going. I think probably also the other number one thing is laughter. Laughter, you cannot have laughter without humility. And humility is, I think, again, what we as Indigenous people just have kind of built in, because, you know, our cousins will take us down if we get too overblown. But, you know, we're all the same. We're all just people on this, you know, a different journey. And if you can have that humility, if you can have that laughter, you'll be connected. You will be healthier and happier for it. And it'll help you to get through those highs and lows and try to even things out a little bit. So always remember that laughter is really important for your success. And the last thing I'm going to say, I hope if the time is right, is a quote, and it was from a writer. His name is Shane Goyzan. I think he's from the Northwest Territories. And he said, "When your heart is broken, make art with the pieces." And I thought that was so beautiful. That's what resilience is. When your heart gets broken, you make art with the pieces. So that's my discussion, I guess, my little resilience chat. And at this point, I guess I would like to see if anybody had any questions. Is there a moderator for questions, or do I?
Hello, this is Felicity Shirk. I'm just going to step in for Chelsea because there is a little tech issue. So what I can do, Patrice, is I can take a look into the chat, and we do have a few questions. So we've got some great comments. People are indicating that, you know, the advice that you spoke about during your amazing talk and sharing your story both inside and outside was just some amazing advice. I'm sure we have a lot of entrepreneurs on the call who are very, very inspired by your story. What I wanted to ask is, you know, when you were, one of the things that you mentioned was that your product, you required a distributor to make sure that that product could be available in different retailers. How did you go about maybe vetting different distributors, or did you have any advice on which one to go with over the others? Because we know there's so many different distributors out there.
Yes.
How are you able to make that decision and choose the distributor that was right for your product and your community as well?
Yeah. So what I did is I actually went to the person that the distributor would be dealing with directly, which would be my retailers. Yeah. And I said to them, who's the best distributor? Who it gives you the best customer service? Who's the most reliable? And they all came up with the name of the distributor that I chose.
All right. That's amazing advice. It's kind of going to the retailers themselves and kind of working with someone and getting recommendations. Also, the way you mentioned when you visited farmers markets or school markets, you were there to kind of, you know, make some sales of the product, but also really there to collect data and information and sort of customer impressions and get all of that really important feedback that entrepreneurs need in that market research stage. So that's amazing as well. I see here there's a question. This is a question from Patera Miller. I'm not sure who this is directed at specifically, but it's referring to, have you both had a board of directors and a board of advisors? Patera, maybe if you want to expand on your question a little bit more in the chat so that we can address that, that would be great. Or if anyone else has any questions or comments, feel free to put them into the chat.
So I can answer that with Satya as well.
Perfect.
So yes, we've absolutely, we do have a board of directors. We are a federally incorporated company, so we do need to have that board of directors. I have not as yet, and it is something that I really should do because it's incredibly valuable to have, is an advisory board. So people who are willing to come in and spend some time to help with your success. So yes, I would say that advisory board definitely. There are, of course, drawbacks to having a board of directors. There is a lot of paperwork and legal and lawyers' fees and et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, you can be incorporated and not have a board of directors. You could be the only director, if possible. So, I mean, if you can have an advisory board and keep the board of directors as minimal as possible, that's probably what I would recommend.
Okay, some more good advice there for any of our entrepreneurs who are, considering incorporation or are already incorporated and wanting to think about having an advisory board as well. That's great. Okay, I'll give another shout out to everyone on the call. A last call for any questions for Patrice.
Yeah, and I'm actually, granted, I was talking about, how to build resilience for yourself personally, but I'm also very happy to, direct any actual business questions as well. I have had a lot of experience doing this. The learning curve has been very steep for me. I feel like I probably have earned about 3 MBAs at this point. So I'm always open to sharing that with people. And if you aren't comfortable sharing your question here, you can always find me on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you so much for that, Patrice, and for offering people the option of reaching out to you that way. Thank you again. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to return Michelle to the main stage.
Okay.
Just a moment. I will do that. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay. Thanks, Felicity. Are we good?
We are good. Perfect.
Okay. I wanted to really take this opportunity to thank you, Patrice. Oh my goodness. I've been there through a lot of your challenges, and I'm so happy and proud of you. And we wanted the end of the day today, the speaker for the end of the day, to wrap the day up with inspiration and a really strong feeling of hope and positiveness and strength. And you have certainly done that. And I want to thank you personally. And I also want to let you know that if whoever is operating the ICIE does not approach you, I will be personally approaching you to sign up as a mentor for the folks that will be utilizing the ICIE. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And with that, I will hand it over to Susanna for some closing remarks.
Thank you, my friend.
Before we go back to Shelley.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And Patrice, wow. What can I say? I had goosebumps listening to your talk this afternoon. I mean, from adversity and trauma comes resilience. Such a powerful statement. And I think it resonated with a lot of people who have attended this session today. And yes, the only thing permanent is change. So we all need to accept that with grace and move ahead. So thank you so much, Patrice, for that, and loads of hugs coming your way. We're connecting virtually. So thank you so much.